Oh, welcome to the podcast. I'm so excited to have some of my favorite people on the show today. I've got Katie Presto and Reese Taylor. Thanks for coming on the show, guys.
Thanks for having us.
Great to be here.
Oh man, my favorite guest hosts for sure. All right, so we are gonna do a film analysis of the remake of Nosferatu. Big deal, everybody's loving it, but we all have thoughts that may not be as popular as everyone else's. Let's find out. The logline for this one is a gothic tale of obsession between a haunted young woman and the terrifying vampire infatuated with her, causing untold horror in its wake. All right, guys. So, I'm going to lead this off with my unpopular opinion. People love this film. It's got a 7.7 on IMDb. It's done well on Rotten Tomatoes. Everybody's talking about it. I watched the film and I love Robert Eggers' work, the director. I mean, he did Northman, he did The Witch, he did what was the
Lighthouse.
The Lighthouse. Thank you. Like
Love that
all fantastic films with strong themes, and for me this one I got a little lost. I loved the visuals, I loved the look of it, but story wise it was a miss for me. What are your guys' thoughts?
I just left the theater feeling kind of empty, and it's weird because I've looked up things since and have seen other people have shared that experience.
Really?
And yeah, I don't know. I think I didn't get. I always like to go to the movies and get something out of it and
Yeah.
live an experience that I haven't gotten to live and try and work the psychology through that. And I just didn't feel like it did that for me. It was a really beautiful film. And I do encourage people to go see it in the theater because that's the only way I would see it, is in the theater, just because of how well it's shot and like all of the camera angles and the beautiful visuals. Like that's worth it to go for that. But to go for the story, and I don't know, it left me kind of not feeling it.
What do you think, Reese?
Well, I'm going to have kind of a bit of a different opinion than everybody else on this one.
Please do.
For one, I'm one of the few people who enjoyed the movie, probably as part of this group. Only because I'd say for one, and I'm not speaking for y'all, but I went in with the assumption that there's only so many ways you can tell Dracula, and this one was the first official / unofficial release, depending on how you view the lawsuits. It's the first one of it. But on the other side of it, I also come from the standpoint of like the years that I've done in film, the years that we've studied it. There is still kind of a discord in the community of, is a film storytelling or is it a work of art?
Right. I think that's a great observation. So it's really, what are you going in for, right? Like, I love story. I want to be moved. I want to feel it in my soul. I want to talk about the movie on the way out of the theater, right? That it hit me so much. It hit me in my soul. When I left this, I wasn't thinking that. I was thinking, wow, that was really great visual subtext. And that's kind of where it stopped with me. But when I walked out of The Witch, blew my mind. When I saw the Northman, I was like, this is trippy, this is incredible. And same thing with the Lighthouse, right? But with this, I was just getting the visual appeal to it that was really kind of harkening back to like German Expressionism, right? But my big issue is I read Dracula this year, like literally 2024, I read Dracula, and then watching interpretation of Dracula that is not as deep kept throwing me off because I kept going like, no, there's so much that we're losing here.
Can I go off of that one for a sec?
Sure.
Because I think about when I first read Dracula and also all of the interpretations that were done of it. I think one of the things that kind of hard in more modern tellings of it is that when Dracula initially came out, if you look at the themes of more of like hyper-nationalism, where it's a foreign body that came in, and who did he corrupt? The women are viewed as weaker. Like these are things that
I like that
don't necessarily translate in today's society. So as much as it's a visual story, and they tried to go further with how women actually impacted the story, but the truth is, with how heavy it was in the original subject, how far away from it can you get and it still stay the same story? But also, how much of it can you get rid of, and will it match up with other tellings of Dracula? I think that's where a lot of the issues from the story come in for people, is that it's the framework of Dracula, but if you take away the weakness that they initially built into women, and you take away again the hyper nationalism,
sure,
how can you tell that story and it be something new?
I think that's a really great point. I mean, that is kind of the challenge that he had to face here is how do I stay close to the original and honor it and then try and do something new, and then you have the and oh yeah, by the way, women are actually an equal sex. So then you have that of a challenge as well. So there's no cop outs. But Katie, let me ask you this, if you don't mind me putting you on the spot here, because a lot of this film is Dracula obsessed. So see, there I go. Is Orlok obsessed with what is her name? Ellen, thank you so much. With Ellen, right? And it's all about he just desires her, and he's almost locked into this desire. And she is kind of stuck in the fact that as a character, she can't really make any active decisions, can she? Right? Because he's chasing her. She can't really do anything. She can't fight him off. She can't go anywhere.
Yeah.
And I was getting lost in that. So were you kind of feeling thematically that there was something going on there with like a male's passion? I can't even say passion. A male's obsession with a woman and her feeling trapped?
Yeah. So, I actually read something that somebody else had written about their experience being assaulted and how that it hit home for that particular person.
Okay.
Of feeling trapped and feeling like, you really can't make any of your own decisions in life. Everything is based on this one incident that happened, and now everything you react to is based on that thing that happened to you a long, long time ago. So you're not really a fully formed person. You're just kind of reacting to situations. You never have like a proactive stance in your own life.
So do you, and this is open to the room. So so she made the deal with Orlok as a little girl, right?
Yeah, she was young.
In her bedroom, right? So it's creepy.
It's very creepy.
From the get-go. Yeah, okay.
And it's kind of like, when a lot of it has to do with sexual repression of women at that time. Okay. And, she was kind of feeling trapped and she had these urges, but, you're not allowed to have those types of urges, or that's considered hysteria. You're crazy. You're going to get locked up for that.
Yeah, that's true. Lobotomized.
So, it kind of plays into the fact that, with so much repression, you go out seeking whatever will give you attention, and sometimes that's the wrong thing. Yeah.
I think you making that point actually gives me a little bit more of a deeper appreciation for what he was trying to go for with the challenges that Malcolm's talking about, especially if we can like unravel the subplots that were kind of reflecting that, where you had Aaron Taylor Johnson and his wife, right, are like the perfect couple.
Right.
And then Ellen's relationship with Nicholas Holt's character is rocky because he's business oriented. She needs love, right? Because she's scared he can't give it to her. And then you have like the totally dysfunctional, creepy, obsessive uncle Orlok.
He's always there though,
Yeah, exactly. and so like breaking up that subplots, I can understand that. I think that actually that really helps me looking back at the film, because I mean I sat there and I was just lost at times, but I didn't have that perspective that you're mentioning, which really helps. Which now I understand why the sex scenes were used for horror scares, because those scenes were so uncomfortable. I can't think of another film like that. Malcolm, when people were stuck in the theater, you can feel a wave of discomfort.
Yeah.
Going through the other theater, to the point of the final shot of the film where you see the dried up husk of Orlok laying on top of her, right? People laughed. People laughed. There it is.
Same thing.
People laughed and got the snicker. And the whole point was he was not intending that to be funny. He was trying to show that he's just a dead corpse now. He's just dried up from the light of the sun, and her frame outlined it, showing that she is the light. She has survived this, but people were so creeped out and uncomfortable from these multitude scary sex scenes that they just laughed at the end.
Yeah, they had to laugh to relieve the tension of it, right?
Exactly.
Can I throw a couple things out there real quick? Because I had 2 points that kind of popped up. One, I want to go off is something that Katie said a little bit earlier, which is something that I've noticed when it comes to, like, again, English major. So I've gone through a lot of books, and we had to go through and look at how the reviews of things have changed over the years. Mm-hmm. So, like, how perception changes. So one of the books I did was Clemens Hausman's The Werewolf. When it came out in 1896, they focused so much more on the form of it. They focused on how well the story she told and how technically it was sound. However, it wasn't until the 1970s and even more so until the 2000s where they really started talking about what her deeper themes of it were. Yeah. So if you look at even, and I'm kind of pairing this with how women were perceived in Dracula or stories around that time, where they were shown for the form. They were the function of characters. They were just a frame of a person. And then later on, you start getting into the deeper themes of it, which is, as you said, with kind of sexual assault, it's something that's being explored more of. Leads me to point number 2, because I think one of the things that, and as writers, I think we're all taught this, is that not to have a protagonist-centric villain. So I'm going to ask y'all, is this a case where it actually worked then?
A protagonist-centric villain. For me, Orlok is so sparsely used in the film that at times I felt like I was watching like a natural disaster film, because the terror is happening, but we're not seeing the dude.
Yeah.
And I was getting frustrated with Ellen's character, because as a writer, we want a character making active decisions, right? But we don't have that. She is quite helpless up until post mid-act 2, and then she starts trying to like figure out how to fight this guy. So for me, I was struggling with that, but a lot of that is built into the story. I mean, you've got to have, her husband has to go over there. He has to get bit. He has to survive. He has to fight his way back. So I was getting lost with that. But that would be a reimagination of the story, and then Robert Eggers might get flack for not being true to the story. So again, there's that rub.
Well, I want to go off of that because that just reminded me of something else. So you're saying how she was not an active villain. I mean, she was not an active participant in the story, like how she wasn't driving the actions to her story.
Mm-hmm.
Let me throw this perspective at you.
Sure.
Is not making an action in action.
Oh, we're going to get philosophical. Okay. All right. Is inaction action?
You can argue if she... go ahead.
So if that argument is to be made, and I'm to try and look through your perspective, then her state of suffering would be her action, correct?
Yes.
And then we're watching half of this movie just watching this girl suffer.
Until she finally stands up.
You could be right. What do you think, Katie? I think you could be right.
I'm trying to think about it.
I love the
I think here's what I think. I think if there's a choice to be made and she chooses inaction, that's different.
It's great. I want to know what the audience thinks. When you guys listen to this, please comment and let us know if action equals inaction, because I think that is a fascinating theory, and it's definitely not something that I had considered, and this is why I like doing this thing. I'm constantly learning. Reese, I think it's great. It's a great point. And so then if you take it that step further, we're watching half a movie for a woman to suffer is brutal if you really think about that. Like, because you really want to watch a movie when you're watching them get better and they're fighting and they're losing and they're coming back. Instead, we're like, let's just watch this lady get possessed like 75 times and watch Lily Rose Depp go absolutely insane until they call cut. So, all right, go ahead.
Okay, let me take that one a step further then, because we're talking about how, again,
I've got notes.
inaction,
I've got notes to cover. Go ahead.
Inaction could be an inaction, correct? So, with that in mind, if we're trying to go back into sexual assault, how many times have predators been allowed back into society because nobody listened, or somebody? Let's say, I would even say, and this is to any sexual assault survivors. Let me clarify myself.
Yeah, we're not going to speak for anybody.
Right. It's such a situation where you're, what's the word I want to use? Where you're violated, that it's hard to face it. And then what happened? This plague swept through the city. How many other people dealt with that same thing? And if you look, most of the people who were attacked were women in it.
Okay, hold on a second. Are you trying to tell me right now that every time she's possessed, she's being spiritually raped by Orlok, and that and the rats are an STD? Is that where we're going with this?
No, not at all. Not at all.
Okay.
What I'm saying is, it's more of a plague of. There's a reason why there's so many sexual assault survivor groups, because they start seeing things in the city, and they start seeing things among people who are victims of the same person. And as long as that person is out there, that's a new victim. That's kind of, I think, where the plague aspect of it came through. That anybody can be affected.
Okay. That's deep. What do you think, Katie?
I see what you're saying, but it seemed like he was...
Yeah.
Because he was so specific in going after her, but other people got hurt because he was going after her.
No, I mean, there's definitely theme of obsession, right? His obsession with her husband's obsession with, furthering his career, Aaron Taylor Johnson's obsession with his wife and family, right? So, I mean, and then the Reinfeld's character's obsession with Orlok and immortality. So, like, obsession is definitely a small theme. It's low-hanging fruit, but it's there. What do you think about? I got the quote for you. Hold on, and I want to hear Katie's word on this first. What do you think about this quote, Katie? My dreams grow darker. Does evil come from within us or from beyond?
I remember that quote.
Yeah.
That one stuck out to me. Yeah, personally.
Sure.
I don't want to do a cop out, but I think it's a little bit of both. I mean, it is. For this particular film, I'm curious what you guys think about why she posed that question and where was her mind at?
Yeah, what do you think? What do you think, Reese?
That's a good question. And again, it gets to the philosophy of everything of, is evil external or how we view it?
Right.
So, gonna go kind of like the whole goth versus emo thing on this one. So, is the world broken or is she broken? That's, I think, where she's trying to get at.
There's only goth girls. There's no goth guys. No, I'm just kidding. He said goth. I really thought goth.
I was about to say goth versus. I said goth versus emos. I'll clarify that.
Okay.
My tongue got a bit tight. That was on me on that one, but no, it's more goth versus emo. So
there's a whole goth genre. Okay.
So the way that I heard it through South Park, go figure, was they said goths view the world as broken, emos view themselves as broken. So you can then argue what broke the world or what broke her.
I think that it starts right. If we're going to go straight screenwriting, this is basic structure of, let's mention the theme of the film in the film through dialogue. So we just start there, right? That's like I said, that's a low hanging fruit. Hey guys, this is what the film's about. And then we start figuring out, oh wait, there's way more than just that. I also think that it is both, because all of the characters in this film are good people that end up doing bad things, right? So you've got her, I mean, she's putting everybody at risk. She ends up killing the guy. You've got her husband who puts her at risk because she leaves because he's money hungry. You've got the Renfield character who's just straight up let me just eat people. You got Aaron Taylor Johnson throws her out after his family's attacked. Not really the best guy that we thought he was, right? So even the Van Helsing character, sorry guys, I don't know the names, but even the Van Helsing-like character was willing to sacrifice other people so that he could go to the vampire's house and burn his his home down, so he couldn't have anywhere to rest. So they were all making sacrifices as far as having a good soul or not. So that is my thought. Now, that being said, it's shown clearly throughout the entire film whenever we see people's faces half lit, because that is like what, every other scene you're seeing somebody's face half lit, or you've got them backlit so the front of them is dark and we see the silhouette. All of that is visual subtext saying, hey, people have a dark side too, people have a light side too, and here we're showing it. What do you guys think?
I'll let you go first because my point has nothing to do with what you're saying.
I love it.
Well, I mean, the truth of the matter is, it's visual storytelling 101. Show, don't tell. So instead of saying we all have darkness within us, what do? You show the light and the dark side. You show something is hidden or something that's a little bit more malicious that's inside us all. So that's one reason why the visual storytelling in this film works, is because so much is shown for what it is. So I guess, like, again, story-wise, it might not show up, but visually through story, it's still told.
Katie?
Something that you mentioned made me think of, just relationships in general. So when he goes off to get the money or whatever, get the big payday, I mean, you said he was money hungry. I wouldn't put it that way. His full intention is to take care of her. But what he's not doing is listening to her, and how he can take care of her is to stay.
That's a great point. He's not giving her what she needs. He's giving her what he thinks. So he's just being like a typical guy.
Yeah. What he thinks she needs.
Great observation. One thing watching this film, it made me appreciate Coppola's Dracula simply for the love story. Like, I liked that film. When I walked out of this film, when I walked out of Nosferatu, I was like, you know what, damn it, that was actually a really good love story. Like, you don't think about it. You think, oh, it's Dracula, but after walking out of this and seeing, psychic rape scenes, you start going, okay.
Can I go off of that for a sec?
Yeah, go ahead.
So, the Ford Coppola Dracula is one of my 5 favorite films of all time.
Oh, it's
absolutely love it. But could you argue that the remake of Nosferatu is more of a horror movie, but the 1992 Dracula was more of a Gothic romance?
So, I mean, it's a Gothic romance. There is horror in that film, dude. You can't get out of calling that horror.
Okay, so let me make a quick clarification.
My Gothic man romance is a full-size bat.
To be fair, a Gothic romance literally means romance with Gothic and dark elements of it. So if you look at like Dorian Gray, if you look at Dracula, technically when they're written, they're all Gothic romances, but because they have deeply human themes among them.
All right, I'll give you that it's a Gothic romance. I'm going to stick with horror, but I mean, we could get murky with things. We could call this just a psychological thriller if you want to get weird with it. So
fair enough.
I mean, most of her is tortured and they're trying to figure it out and put the pieces together. I mean, that's a thriller. So this could be considered a thriller with a horror thriller, I guess, if you want to go off of it. How do we feel about Orlok basically dressed as the classic portrait of Vlad the Impaler, man? I mean, down to the mustache, guys.
Yeah, I didn't think about it until he said it.
Right? Now you look at it, the dude had the mustache. I mean, he, like, the portrait of Vlad the Impaler.
Yeah.
What do you guys think?
Go ahead.
So, they never specifically said it in the book, and you just read it so you can attest to it.
Uh-huh.
There's a lot of subtle hints that he was Vlad the Impaler in the book.
Right.
And it seems like each film after that is trying to say, nope, that's just straight up Vlad the Impaler. Because, I mean, Vlad the Impaler was also known as Vlad Dracula, which means...
Yeah, in the book, it's the whole when he has dinner the first time at his place, and he's talking about a battlefield experience like he was there from hundreds of years ago. And so it's heavily implied. And then there's the whole, the dragon thing as his coat of arms and all of that. So, I mean, it's heavily implied, but the choice of we're just going to make this guy look like he never changed from hundreds of years ago and just slowly rotted. What do we think?
To be fair, it gets away from the original Count Orlok and the reasons behind that one. I don't know if that's something that we want to discuss on this, but I do think that it's important to try to get away from what the original image of it was supposed to be.
Right, but, which was grounded in racism.
Yes.
Correct? Yeah, thank you.
So I think anything that gets as far away from that, I'm happy with. And the fact that they just had Vlad the Impaler hundreds of years later, I love that touch to it.
All right, can I be petty?
Of course.
Go ahead.
I don't want, because I have nothing but respect for this guy. I do. But how are you going to bite a dude's chest? You know, they're flat. Have you tried it? I'm just being petty. I had a long conversation with my wife about this. I'm like, he's biting his chest. And she's like, right. And I'm like, how do you do it? You can't get your teeth like that.
Did you try it?
I said it was a conversation. But now we're painting a picture. I was not where I was walking into this trap. My point being, she's my best friend. Of course, we're going to talk about everything. Maybe I'll try it later. But do you know what I mean? Like, because I was torn by it, because when I was watching it, I'm like, that's a great idea to have them bite the chest, because that's where the heart is, and he's like physically slurping it out, and it's very visual, and you know, it's not sexy at all. It's scary as hell. But then I'm like, but how is he doing that? And they never showed it, right? Because you can't do it.
Yeah, and he's got that big nose and getting in the way, and
is he pulling the mustache aside? You know.
First thing I was thinking, like, is he a snake where he can like unhinge his jaw? Or
that's what I was thinking.
I love that idea. We didn't see it though.
That too.
Right?
Didn't see it,
Every shot you saw was from what? It's from the back or from the side, and we didn't see it. I want to see that. I want to see him unhinge his jaw. I want to see him latch on. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
that'd be fantastic.
Cool.
What did you say, Reese?
Can I be petty for a sec?
Absolutely.
We're
all petty here.
If we actually revealed that on screen, or if they actually revealed that on screen, would it have made you feel any better?
Yeah. For me, it would.
Like
I don't know. It's a good point. It might have done nothing. It might have been like,
no,
it might have made it worse. It could have been like, oh, look how cheesy this is, you know? Or it could have been like,
he wouldn't have done it cheesy though, because
guy,
visually,
the guy's incredible.
He's on point.
Because when I think of if they actually showed it, the first thing I think of is, I don't know if y'all remember this one, 1994 Stephen King's Night Flyer.
I
got nothing.
So
that's a made-for-TV movie.
Yep. With
I got nothing.
What's his name? Wasn't it Miguel Ferrer in it?
How would you know?
Is this the airplane one? No, that was Tommy.
That's the airplane one. Tommy
with the Pac-Mans, eating the airplanes, and the Pac-Man's eating the past. Langoliers, yeah.
So Night Flyer was a vampire who used to fly on planes. So he'd stay at.
I don't think I know that one. Now I want to see it.
Gizmo, go. But I gotta try to find it, but like if I find it, I'll make sure to send it to y'all. But when I think about if they would have actually shown it, all I think about is what the vampire in that looked like. Yeah. And in my mind, I'm thinking that would have completely ruined it for me.
So there's a little difference in techniques from like 1997 made for TV Stephen King. We've got $45 to make this movie, and Matt Eggers. But I think you're right. It could very well have been super cheesy because we showed it instead of letting the imagination go. My problem having OCD and walking out of a movie analyzing everything is I'm going, well, how the hell did he do it? And now I'm walking home and I can't stop thinking about it until I talk to my wife about it. And then we start figuring out, okay, like, nobody can do that.
I mean, it could have been like on The Strain where he just has this like long thing just come out and reach out and grab.
Brother, he could have pulled out, for all we know, he could have pulled out a straw with loopy loops on it. Okay.
So Dracula dead
and stuck it in the chest and just started sucking. You know what I mean? We don't know. We didn't see it. It's in there like who knows? So, all right. So I think this has been a pretty good film analysis-ish. And is there anything I missed, guys, that you walked away from?
I don't think so. I think the only thing that I was thinking about is not screenwriting related, but the amount of time that he had to spend under makeup, the amount of time he had to spend practicing facial expressions to work with the prosthetics that he was using.
Wow.
Like, it's all the stuff that you don't think about that it kind of makes me feel like, look, I'm not trying to trash the movie because a lot went into this. A lot went into it. It's just based on screenwriting and our interpretation and our feel of it and what we're looking for out of the movie. This is our thoughts. But yeah, everything that went into the film was just an incredible amount of work.
Reese?
For me, I look at it like this. As filmmakers, especially as we get further and further away from how films were originally created, we go more into wanting to see realism as the main form of acting. And we forget that formalism was once a major style, not only just with acting, but with screenwriting, with the way the films are visually produced. We're trying to get, we've gotten so far away from the formalistic style that's drawing attention to that it's a performance, that I think a lot of people got lost when the film was shown, because you see what they would consider overacting, but if you look at it through a formalistic lens, this was actually a very great performance. And with the way the story went, which actually was slow enough to allow those performances to stand out, I think it's something that a lot of people might have issues with, specifically with how we make films today. But if you're to look at it through a different lens, you can argue, hey, this film came out 100 years too late because most people don't appreciate that kind now. But you can also argue they were going more theater style and they were acting for the people in the back.
No, I think you're right. Like, okay, watching this film, because we didn't even talk about the acting yet, because watching that film, I'm sitting there the entire film and I'm going, they are riding the line of almost hammy. This is almost hammy acting. It's almost there. It is elevated. And I was thinking to myself, like, that was a good scene. She was scary as hell. That was a good scene. He was terrified. If they did it like 1% more, it would be bad acting. And that was deliberate. And because the whole film was like that. And he's never done that with any of his other films. And so like he's I think partially he's experimenting and he's expressing, because he's a filmmaker, he's an artist. And I appreciate the bravery of him doing that, because he could have played it cool. He could have played it easy and be like, no, bring it down. No, but he wanted them to go as far as they could with it still being tasteful, which resonates like a stage play. And I think you're absolutely right. And so like, I like Katie, like I appreciate the actors. I appreciate what the director has done, but at the same time, I have thoughts.
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
All right. Is there anything else?
Can I add one more thing to that?
No, of course. So, come on, man.
And this is going back to kind of the film's roots, and this is something to talk about, which is the whole idea of German Expressionism, which was supposed to distort the world. Like, they actually reference the film throughout the movie. If you're really eagle-eyed, you catch it, but they reference a lot of The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari, which, if you look through the world, it's distorted. Like, the angles don't match up. The way it's framed.
To create that kind of odd, creepy feeling.
Because really, and I'm going to ask y'all this, and this is how they do it. Did it feel like you were watching a dream? Did it feel like you were watching a weird, distorted nightmare?
The only scene where I could absolutely say yes to that is when he gets to Transylvania and he runs into the Romanian gypsies. At that point, I felt like, is he waking up from this? Because I remember the crazy laughter and the camera angles going in and out and focusing and the misunderstanding and all of that. That felt ethereal and like he's not present. So at that point, I'd say yes.
It's kind of what German Expressionism does. It's like when that style came out, it was meant to distort. It throws the audience off because you recognize that this isn't the real world. So it leaves you in a state of unease.
Yeah. Cool. All right, guys. I want to say thank you again, Katie, Presto, Reese, Taylor. Thanks for coming on this show. And I look forward to having you guys on and doing this again.
Absolutely.
Sounds good.